Do a quick video talking about my basic training philosophy, my approach to fitness, and I'm going to introduce the Dorian system. What is a Dorian system? The Dorian system is my cumulative experience with exercise and fitness and resistance training and pursuing strength and aesthetics. Um, and currently, what my current training split would be. I mentioned before, I believe in the four C's: compound movements, calisthenics, concentration, exercises, and cardio and conditioning. 4 to 5 C's. But cardio and conditioning are the same thing. Um, and that's where my training program, I guess, stems from. The belief that calisthenics and compound movements and calisthenics. Some would argue calisthenics, some would argue compound movements are the best movements for muscle growth. In my opinion, calisthenics are the best exercises for upper body progression and upper body development. Compound exercises are the best exercises for lower body and posterior chain progression and development. And then concentration exercises, which generally concentrate on one specific muscle or maybe one specific muscle group or area of the body. And then you have cardio and or conditioning, which is basically cardiovascular exercise, which works and strengthens the heart, and conditioning, which conditions one to be used to and comfortable with continuous strength, continual strenuous activity. Conditioning is running, jumping rope, explosive movements. Maybe we can even count riding bicycles, or even hiking and conditioning. So starting with like compound movements and calisthenics and why they're the most effective form of exercise, or specifically resistance training to develop muscle and strength. So I'm going to start with compound movements. Compound movements are your basic squat, bench press, and deadlift, and all the variations that go along with those exercises. You also have military press. And compound movements are movements that use multiple muscle groups, multiple regions of the body, in conjunction, in tandem, in order to move a load through space. And you're moving the body through space in the process of moving that load. Compound movements are interesting because there are a lot of variations for compound movements. For the squat, we have the front squat. We have narrow stance. You can change the stance on the squat. You have the split squat. I'm sure there you have the sissy squat. There are other variations that I'm not mentioning right now. For the deadlift, you have Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, split leg or single leg deadlifts. For the bench press, you have incline bench press, dumbbell bench press, different ways to add things to these exercises. Military press or shoulder press, we have the behind the neck press. These movements, I would generally say, to cut a long story short, they're best for developing the overall frame, for developing the skeletal structure. They will build muscle, but they'll build muscle in not so much a superficial way. Now, don't get me wrong, doing deadlifts, you will get an insane back. Doing bench presses, you will get a really nice upper body, really nice pec, really nice chest, shoulder development. But generally, what I've noticed in my training is those exercises develop the frame, if that makes sense. Calisthenics, moving on to calisthenics. Also, compound movements develop total strength, and I think that they're really good for just your overall health because they get the body working. It's in one whole, and they also promote circulation of blood and other bodily, crucial bodily, whatever processes. Calisthenics would consist of your basic push-up, pull-ups, dips, and all the variations that go along with that. Some of those variations would include diamond push-ups, altering the hand placement of push-ups, doing push-ups with the legs on the chair, doing push-ups with the upper body elevated and the legs on the ground, one arm push-ups, etc., etc., etc. We have multiple grips and approaches to pull-ups, different grips and approaches and ways to do dips. In my opinion, calisthenics is best for developing, we're talking about specifically naturally, for developing the upper body. This is something that I can't quite explain. It's something that I've just noticed. I've noticed that people who primarily do calisthenics generally have the best upper body development. Why? I really, I would say just probably evolutionarily, we evolved pushing ourselves up, pulling ourselves up. And those are things that are just ingrained into the way we exist as organisms. Um, Calisthenics, one of the upsides of calisthenics as opposed to compound exercises is generally they're easy to recover from. In order to, but one of the downsides of calisthenics is it's hard to progress in the sense that adding weight requires some equipment, and everybody doesn't have the equipment to add weight. But I don't think it's so much necessary to add weight. I think with calisthenics, it's about overall volume, adding more difficult variations, and increasing the number of reps. In my experience, I've noticed that people who focus on calisthenics have the best arm, shoulder, chest, and even back development. But their lower bodies lack, and it's hard to really develop your lower body using body weight squats, body weight lunges. Moving on to concentration exercises. Concentration exercises do just that. They concentrate and focus on a specific region, on specific muscles. Concentration exercises are very important, in my opinion, for aesthetics. While compound exercises can provide um, muscle growth, I think that concentration exercises are very important because to get really nice shoulders, to get separations in the three heads of your deltoid, to get a really nice set of biceps, and not just to get a really nice set of biceps, but to have separation in your muscle groups, to have detail in your muscle groups. I think concentration exercises are very important. And lastly, I'm just going to touch on briefly cardio and conditioning. I like to do jump rope. I also like to go for walks. A lot of people like to run. A lot of people like to ride bikes. Cardio and conditioning will burn fat, but I don't think it's necessarily the best way to burn fat. The best way to burn fat, in my opinion, is resistance training with good dieting. But cardio and calisthenics can go that extra mile to burn a little bit of extra fat, and they're really important, in my opinion, this as far as being conditioned and athletic. You'd be surprised how many people are lean and strong, but they're just not that well conditioned. And if you want to be conditioned because of the law of specificity, you should do some conditioning work. I like jump rope because it's similar to running in a level of intensity. However, you can do it over a shorter duration of time, and I think there's more of an athletic transference because you have aspects of footwork and coordination. And if you can jump rope for 30 minutes, you can run for 30 minutes. So tying everything together, compound movements, calisthenics movements, concentration movements, and some conditioning should all be a part of a strength training and a fitness program. I think one should start the primary focus of a training program should be compound movements. The secondary focus should be calisthenics. And after that should be concentration movements. Because truthfully, if you're doing compound movements in calisthenics, you'll have an excellent physique. Excellent physique. And I think that the concentration movements should be brought in when one wants to target specific body parts that aren't necessarily stimulated or developed to the extent with which the individual would like through simply doing compound movements in calisthenics. I like to, my general system right now, and I'll make a specific video about this, but my general system incorporates all four of these different types of training. I have one day where I focus on compound movements, one day where I focus on concentration movements, and one day where I focus on calisthenic movements. And that kind of allows me to recover because the compound movements, by spacing those out every 3 days, I literally do 3 days. I'm doing compound movements technically 3 times a week, but I'm doing compound movements at least twice every 7 days. After that, I do my concentration movements on the next day. Those concentration movements are generally going to cover areas that I think the compound movements didn't cover fully enough. And then I do my calisthenics, usually weighted calisthenics on the 3rd day. And that helps to really develop the upper body, and it helps me to recover from my to continue to recover from my compound workout and possibly my calisthenic workout, but still challenge myself. So to wrap up, you have compounds, calisthenics, concentrations, and cardio conditioning work. It should all be used. You can use them all in one workout, which I very often do. Because even though certain workouts might focus on compound movements, they'll also use some calisthenics and some concentration movements. But the focus on day one would be compound movements. Focus on day two would be concentration movements. The focus on day three would be calisthenic movements. I haven't seen anybody who's personally divided their split up that way. It works very well for me. I've obtained a PR in my deadlift. I'm stronger and leaner than I've ever been, and I feel good. And honestly, I haven't taken a day off of training in almost 9 months, so I recover very well. I'm around 8% body fat. I'm as strong as I've ever been while being as lean as I've ever been, and I carry more muscle at a lower body weight than I ever had. So personally, I really like this particular training split system that I'm incorporating right now. And in my next training video, I'll go more into detail into how those 4 C's, which are compounds, calisthenics, concentration, and conditioning work, how those 4 C's are incorporated into my current training program and my current training philosophy, some of the results I get, and some of the exercises I do to employ this method. So if you stayed this long, like the video, I'd appreciate the support. I don't really like asking for likes, and maybe even subscribe, because I want to get this message out there, and I want to share with more people information on natural, organic training. Thank you. This is Dorian. When it comes to training, the system is called the Dorian system, and I encourage everybody to develop your own system based on your knowledge and your needs. Thank you very much. Until next time.